would please introduce yourself from your own point of view in your own words, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, so I am Wendy Cherry, and I am a Virginia State grad. I'm a Delta. I'll be celebrating 30 years next year, which is amazing. I am also an author, a radio show host, and a certified integrative nutrition health coach. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And then I'm a mom. So
Yeah, awesome. So let's just get into it. Can you speak about really what your services are and what you provide people? Because there's so many different types of coaches out there,
yeah.
and you have such a specific and wonderful niche that I think we really need to dive into what exactly it is that you do.
Okay, so a certified integrative nutrition health coach, we focus on nutrition, but integrative means mind, body, and spirit. So instead of having you go and, kill yourself at the gym or only eat fruit and vegetables or something like that, we kind of tailor something for your specific body. Some people can't eat fruit and vegetables. I know a guy who's allergic to fruit. So we tailor it so that you're addressing your mind, which has a lot to do with everything, your body, which is your temple, and then your spirit, which is how you connect to spirit, and really you're a spirit in a body. So I kind of like work with clients. I do one-on-ones. My preference is groups where I have a group of people, a group of women, Black women, and we just talk about everything. We talk about your emotions, your family structure, how much water you drink, if you love yourself, how much sun you get. So there are lots of things that we talk about and we unpack in a session.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So in terms of working in a group session, is it preferred because it's more, I guess, like personal because there's more people to relate to, or what is the preference and the reason behind it?
The preference is that when I work with people one-on-one, when I ask them, when we come together and create something, create a plan, usually it's hard for them to stick to the plan. So it's sort of a waste of my time. My sister's here. Hi, big sister. They don't stick to the plan, or yeah, that's it. And I don't have the patience for it, to be honest. So I prefer groups. I think I work better in groups. I like to work with groups of women. I do it on, I mean, before COVID, of course, I had what I called goddess gatherings. But now online, it's virtual. So I've done stuff for our sorority, for my chapter here in Northern Virginia. I've done stuff for other people's sororities. I've done stuff for the NAACP. It just depends. And it's just like a group session. And then we just talk about it. So what we've been talking about lately, of course, is COVID and how to cope through COVID and different tools that you can use to help yourself thrive, not just survive. A lot of people are like, I'm just trying to get through COVID. Yeah, we're trying to get through COVID, but you can also thrive during COVID.
Yeah.
Lots of things we can do that we didn't get to do before. Some probably because you're not having to sit in the traffic to go to work. You might be, doing it from home, more opportunities to create your own schedule. So there are lots of things you can do. So I talk about food during COVID. I talk about being a human during COVID. Like, do you get personal touch, non-sexual touch? Are you craving anything? Are you craving comfort foods? Like, there's a plethora of things. So those are my favorite things to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of things that your holistic approach is centered around is the awakening of the goddess or god.
Right.
So can you elaborate a little bit on what exactly does that mean to be to have that awakening?
Well, in my opinion, I believe that especially Black people in the U.S., we have been conditioned to look to somebody else to come save us. Different spiritual systems have us look to other people to come save us. And in my opinion, and just in my experience, I got to save myself. Along with the creator. I believe in a creator. I believe there's another powerful, very powerful source out there, but I also believe that we were born gods and goddesses,
Mm-hmm.
and we have forgotten. And not forgotten because we wanted to forget it, we have been conditioned to have forgotten. So I love to, help people remember where they came from, remember their own divinity, remember that nobody's coming to save you. And there are things you can use to help yourself because you are just that powerful, very powerful. And so that's what I talk about, So I have an exercise where it's called a love letter to the divine. You are the divine. You're writing a love letter to yourself. When have you ever written a love letter to yourself? So those are some of the things that I like to talk about. And that's a tool that I use to help people tap into it.
Absolutely. So, for someone that's really new into this new perspective,
Mhm.
what does food have to do with the spirituality aspect in terms of keeping the whole body balanced?
Well, food is intelligence. Food is, you communicate with food. So an example, think of a blueberry. The blue in the blueberry has antioxidants that help to heal the body. It's anti-cancer. Like all of the berries, the strawberries, the blackberries, the cherries, all those kinds of berries, those different colors provide like it's a signal that speaks to the body. So a blueberry specifically is good for the brain, and a walnut is good for the brain. If you think about the shape of a walnut,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a brain. So there are lots of different fruit and vegetables that are that we have available to us, that once we eat them, our body's like, oh, you're talking to me. You're speaking nicely to me. So if you think about a plate and you think about a whole bunch of fruit and vegetables on a plate, the ones that you can eat, not the ones that you're allergic to, because you can be allergic to certain fruit and vegetables. If it's really colorful, think of, all the colors of the rainbow, and then think of a traditional American diet. What does that look like? Pizza, chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, fries. What color are those things? They're all brown, and they're not really considered food. So the processed food mainly. So those don't speak anything. Those speak negatively to the body. So think about those things curse at your body, and the other, the more organic, whole foods speak love, love language to your body. So that's what I mean by that, and that's why it's important to really be careful on what you eat.
Absolutely, absolutely. And while I was perusing through your website, I noticed that your favorite place to go was when you went to ancient Kemet in Egypt. And I
Yep.
recently just started studying the Kemetic sciences. So I'm
Ah,
interested in seeing how has, or if that knowledge has influenced your holistic practices, or if it was
yes.
something that developed outside of those principles.
Well, I was already on my own spiritual journey before I became introduced to Kemetic science. But once I was in, I was in. You know what I'm saying? And then I went to Kemet. Kemet is Egypt. For people who don't know, Kemet is the land of the blacks. It's the indigenous name of Egypt. And so I was reading all this information specifically from Tony Browder, Anthony Browder. He has the Browder files, and he has all different types of resources on ancient Kemet in Egypt. Him along with other master teachers, I call them master teachers, John Henry Clark, Asa Hilliard. And I was reading some of those things, but I have decided that I will no longer just have people tell me things without me researching for myself to see if it resonates for me, to see if I believe is true, to see if it impacts me any kind of way. So in that, I decided to go to Egypt, Kemet, with Tony Browder. It was a 2-week tour. He called it a field trip, actually. He was like, we're not coming here to just be swimming at the pool and swimming in the Nile. We're here to learn. So I went through the tombs. He's actually excavating. He's the first African American to be excavating the tomb of Karakamen, who was a 25th dynasty king. The people who are in charge of Egypt now, as you know, are Arabs. And they came and they took over from the African, the black, the land of the blacks. Those people, they took over. So now everything is Egyptian versus, you know, Nubian versus Kush and things like that. So I saw the writing on the wall for myself.
Wow.
I saw symbols. I saw Mother Newt. I saw all the deities, Hathor, and all the different deities for myself, Sahat, and I was like, oh my goodness. So it changed my life. The groups that go with Tony Browder, we call ourselves that we have a metamorphosis. And I went in 2016, the same exact day that I went is when Philando Castile and I forgot the other gentlemen were murdered that day before I went. And also during the time I was there was the presidential, the Republican National Convention was happening too. And everybody was stressed out here. Like in the US, everybody was stressed out. And it was my first time feeling safe, feeling seen, feeling accepted. And I was in Africa and I was safe. So it has changed my life. And then I have been to Africa twice since then, and actually just came back 2 weeks ago from getting my citizenship to the country that I'm from, which is Sierra Leone.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I definitely think that, like, well, first of all, I feel like that was probably such a I don't even want to say magical because I feel like that's probably not the right word, but a magical experience.
It was.
And
It was.
so has that, and all of your experiences since then, how has that reshaped how you perceive life? Like when you came back and those same events were happening, was it like, oh my gosh, back to the old grind, or did you have a different way of viewing those stresses?
I know who I am. And when you know who you are, then there's nothing you can't do. So I do not have, okay, my time check for my Facebook is about to shut down.
Oh, you're good.
It's going to shut down, but it's going to come right back. It'll come right back. It's going to give me 2 more minutes and then it'll come back. But I know who I am. And so when you have all this craziness going on the TV and you had the Trump administration talking crazy about us, and that I didn't even pay any attention to that stuff because I know who I am and I know who I come from. So it you know, like that duck on the water kind of thing. I was just gliding on through, and I really wasn't even pedaling that hard under because I know who I am. I think it was more stressful to see my loved ones and people around me stressing out. That's probably what has been the biggest issue with me having this information, and everybody is on their own journey and I want to share it with everybody, but I realize I can't share it with everybody. I drop the seed, and whoever picks it up, they pick it up, just like people did for me, just like Tony Browder did for me, just like other people have done for me over the years. They drop seeds and I pick them up when I'm ready. So, you know, I didn't come through unscathed because we've never had a pandemic before. I've never lived through a pandemic before. However, I fared pretty well. And when I wasn't feeling my best, I was able to use the tools that I have. So for instance, I had my therapy session today. I haven't had therapy since 2010, but it was time to go back. So I started again and I've been going, and you know, when you know what you need to do, then you just do it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Absolutely. So you touched on another point that I wanted to ask about. So in like the teachings and in moving and growing and expanding, there are times where you look and like, man, I wish I could really help this person or
Right.
like it. So how do you get over the guilt, I guess, of not being able to help and save everybody?
I'm just finishing that lesson now because everybody's like feeling a certain way about corona, they're feeling a certain way about vaccines and things like that. And I just decided I got to let it go. Everybody's on their own journey and everybody's on their own path, and it has nothing to do with me because I need to figure out my stuff. So I always say the work is in the mirror. So all you can do is look in the mirror, and you have to give everybody grace, be compassionate, and pray for the best. That's all you can do.
Absolutely. So when it comes to um like let's say there's someone, right, like in a situation, and there's someone who is trying to improve their self and be like a better person, but there's like people who keep attacking. Are you, do you
Yeah.
see it from your perspective as, okay, turn the other cheek and keep it moving, or are you and your principles like, all right, let's address this? Or how would you address a situation where someone continues
Yeah.
to
I
attack?
believe communication is everything. And if you can have some communication with a person, then I think that's the best thing to do. And I'm in a situation now where I'm having to use that tool. Do I want to bring that Kali, that fire, or do I want to bring that Erica Badu? I got both. And
Okay.
so I'm realizing we are duality. We're both feminine and masculine. We're both light and dark. And I always, especially from the spiritual upbringing that I was in growing up, they always taught you to be good, be good, be good, be good, be good, turn the other cheek. Nah, I don't do that anymore. I will address what I need to address.
Mm-hmm.
And if I need to bring that fire, I'll bring it, and I won't feel guilty because I'm a duality. I'm light and I'm dark. And when you try to suppress those things about yourself is when you cause yourself problems.
Absolutely.
So
So
that's
in,
that's what.
yeah, so in doing that, have you ever received pushback because it's like, well, who do you think you are as
You
a woman
always
to
receive
do?
pushback. There's always pushback. But my responsibility is to myself and to my peace. My
Yeah.
responsibility is not to somebody's feelings or whatever. It's for them, as long as I get it up. Now, knowing how to communicate is key because you can bring that fire, but if you just yik yakking and hollering at people, then they're not going to understand what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
What I've learned is you can get more from honey than vinegar. So, I'm better at it than I used to be, and so I believe that the communication is the key, and you're really not responsible for other people's feelings. You are responsible for responsibly communicating what you feel. So it really is important to take time to really feel what you feel. Because if you just go out and you haven't really, if you don't know, then you can't really relay what you need to the other person. So think of a radio dial. I don't even know if there's no radio dials anymore, but just think about back in the day, the radio dial, if it wasn't hitting a frequency, it would be fuzzy. You
Uh-huh.
remember those? It'll make, and then it plays your station. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
If you're not speaking clearly, they'll hear the wah, 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 wah until you speak clearly and you know what you want. Then the signal will transmit clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And you do yourself a service when you do it. Like I am learning. So I have a 27-year-old niece who is a social worker. Shout out to Therapy, Amira at Therapy. And so she was talking to me about, something that I was going through. And she was like, Auntie, you have these things to say. Pick the top 3 that are most important to you and just say those 3. Because also when you have a issue with somebody, you could be overwhelming them by just coming at them too. And then
Mm-hmm.
they'll shut down. That's not what you want. What you want is the person to receive what you're saying. So pick the top 3 things, figure out what really is that you want,
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there. So you know, but at the end of the day, if you can get it up and out in a responsible way, then you're not responsible for how they feel about it.
Absolutely. So, what would you say to someone who is early on in their spiritual journey or their journey of discovery in
Yeah.
general, and maybe they're in a situation where they're surrounded by people who aren't necessarily agreeing with their transition? And
Yeah.
so, what would you say to that person?
Well, it happened to me. So when I started to study, you
Hmm.
know, when you ask for wisdom, it comes.
Yeah.
And sometimes the things that you learn are painful, specifically if you learn things aren't true the way that you were taught or the way that you were conditioned. So I would just say take it slowly. You know, just think about when you're sitting at a big old smorgasbord of food. Don't try to like stuff your whole face. Eat a little bit at a time, because at the end of the day, you can get sick if
Hmm.
you stuff yourself. The information can be so overwhelming. You're going to need to ground it. So everything that you're learning when you're studying things is ethereal, it's in the brain. But you also need to root your body and ground yourself, because you might learn that what your grandmama thought and what you thought all your life ain't the truth. And how painful is that? You know what I'm saying? And if you try to tell your grandmama XYZ, she might be like, girl, that's not true. And you can't come in my house anymore if you believe that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to pick and choose. And I would also say your journey is your journey. You cannot force anybody else to be on the journey. I mean, trust me, I know. I did those. These are the things you don't do. Like, everybody's not there. Everybody's not ready. Everybody can't go. Everybody's not interested in going. Some people are just as content in their willful ignorance.
Mm. Yeah.
And then it's really kind of crazy, because my mentor, who's a soror, shout out to Pastor Vicki Johnson, she's told me I'm responsible for what I know. Once you know something, you're responsible for it. And that is hard. You know, like I can't act like I don't know XYZ. So I have to govern myself a certain way.
Hmm.
So I just say be very gentle with yourself. Don't try to bring anybody along. Your lessons are only in the mirror, and just go slow, because there's a whole world, and it's like an onion. Once you finish one layer of learning some stuff, and then you apply it, and then it works for you, and then you got it, and you got a good rhythm, the next layer is going to unfurl, and you're going to be like, dang, you know, you never know it all. You just never know it all.
Absolutely. And I've been noticing like every day is like another kind of mind blowing expansion, like
Yeah.
discovery. And I'm like, and I just discovered, like you said, I don't really know anything at this point.
Nope.
But
Nope.
just, so I do have a couple more questions because we are
Okay.
kind of at the tail end. Um,
Okay.
but in terms of like working with you, because you have all this knowledge and you have different services and things. So what if somebody wants to get in contact with you and they want to work with you? What type of services do you provide at
Okay.
this point? And then how can they best contact you as well?
Well, my website is wendycherry.com, just WENDICHERRY.com. And everything is there. So I do, like I say, the sessions. I can do one-on-ones. I actually have worked in a doctor's office before. I'm probably going to start working in a doctor's office again, doing one-on-ones with patients. Um, but I do those. I do group sessions. I also do supermarket tours. And I haven't done one of those since Corona, but you know, people are eating differently and understanding that they have to eat differently. Some people need to lose that Corona 15 or whatever it was. So I do those too. But everything is on wendycherry.com.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then a few more questions really quick.
Okay.
I'm curious to see how you went from that new stage to actually being comfortable enough to come out and like I'm someone who helps people discover their divinity. How did
Yeah.
you get to that place from the initial discovery and maybe those like baby steps of getting out there?
I think I was born to do it. Like I've always been a storyteller. I've always been a writer. I've been writing in a diary since I was 8.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always been a good storyteller and able to relay information. I've always had like a teacher spirit.
Mm-hmm.
But what really catapulted me was because, I am 50. And as I was turning 40, there are certain things that they say you have to have in place by the time you're 40. And me and a lot of people that I know, people my age, especially women, were like, okay, I got the house, I got the car, I got the PhD, I got the husband, I got the dog and the 2.5 kids, but I'm still miserable.
Mm.
Or I'm sick, or my body's not well, or whatever. I hate my job. There's all different types of things. And I was in that boat. And so once I realized that I had the power, and once I kept learning, everything kept coming back to me. You are powerful. You are divine. Nobody's coming to save you. You, along with the creator, will figure out your path. You were born for something great. And so once I really got that and understood that, then I wanted to share with everybody. And then I went on that, everybody got to know. And then that was another cycle. And then I came off that cycle, and then I just say, whoever needs to know will get it at the time. Like when they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. It has happened for me. It is still happening for me. I ain't always excited about teachers because sometimes it's painful, but I welcome lessons because I just want to get better, and I do not want to repeat any of this crap that I have done for so many years. Like, I do not want to repeat those cycles. I want to break the cycles of people who I come from who maybe didn't have the tools that I have and didn't make good decisions, or decisions that were maybe not good. It was the best that they could do at the time, potentially, but lots of things have happened and transpired in that are negative. So I want to break the cycle, and that's what I feel like I'm born to do, to break that cycle and help other people break the cycle. Like I know that now no is a whole full sentence. I don't have to explain no if I don't want to do anything.
Yes. Speaking.
I'm learning that I have boundaries and that I need to put them in place very clearly so that other people understand what I need. I'm learning that I have to know what my own boundaries are and know what I want. And when you know what you want, again, going back to the radio, the signal is clear and the creator can hear a clear signal, and it will happen. And the lesson I'm on right now is learning to just let things be as they are. I can say what I want, and I can take the steps, my steps, but also knowing that everything will happen the way it is supposed to, and it will happen for me, not to me. So that was the lesson over the winter. Winter was hard for me. Winter was really hard. I learned a whole bunch of lessons, but now I'm in the spring now, and I'm so grateful for them.
Absolutely. I do a signature round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was such a pleasure to have you on, and you dropped so many awesome gems. Is there anything that you wanted to discuss that I did not already ask about, or any projects, anything that you wanted to say?
Well, I have a book. So I'm from New Jersey, and my book is called From Jersey to Me, The Awakening and Healing of a Goddess. And in that book, I share this whole thing. I basically give a blueprint of how I did it. I wish I brought it to my desk here. I can't even go get it because I'm trapped here in this little thing here, but it's just on my website, wendycherry.com. You can do /book, but it basically lays out the blueprint that I use. Everybody's blueprint is different, but sometimes if you have a little blueprint, a little template to help you, it's 8 chapters, and it has worksheets in every chapter for you to ask yourself some questions. It has that love letter to the divine in it. It has a letter where you forgive the person who hurt you the most. It has a letter for you, or like an exercise for you if you don't have a good relationship with your mama. Like, it has all different types of things. And then in the back, it has resources on who helped me, like who were my mentors. So Tony Browder is in there as one of them when I went to Kemet. And I tell the story of going to Kemet and my whole transition from being in the entertainment industry for many years to where I am now, doing health and wellness and things like that.
Absolutely. And I also saw you have an audio version as well.
Yeah, I
So
have a digital version, an audio version that I voiced myself, and then the paperback.
awesome. And I'm so sorry. I meant to ask you about it. I had it right here, but I was so into your responses, I
No
forgot
worries.
about it.
No worries.
Thank you. Thank you. This was such a pleasure to have you on. If you ever want to jump back, just let me know. I'll
Thank
be
you.
posting this immediately on Instagram, and then
Okay,
at some point I'll be posting on YouTube. I'll send you the link.
please
And
do.
in the meantime, it was such a pleasure. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you,
I
Soror.
so enjoyed you. And like I said, if you ever want to jump back on, because I learned a whole bunch and I have so many more questions, but
Wonderful.
we could certainly do it. So thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Thank
All right.
you. All right, guys, that was another amazing interview. Big, huge shout out to Alpha Ada. Okay. We are in here. We are living our best lives and spreading wellness and positivity. Guys, make sure you guys go check out Wendy. She has so much amazing knowledge. So, as soon as I jump off, I'll be sure to post it and then I'll tag her and all that stuff so you can get to her links and everything like that. This was the last interview of the week, but I do have another one scheduled on May 28th. I think at like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I can't remember which time, but it's on May 28th. So anyway, I'll see you guys then. And, just stay tuned. If anybody wants to interview, just send me a DM or an email, anything like that. And make sure you guys go check out Wendy's book and her book her for your wellness retreats and all that type of stuff in your workshops and that grocery store tour. I'm here for it. Let's get our mind, bodies, and souls together for this. All right. See you guys next time.